my name is Rutendo Nyamuda, and welcome to another refreshing, energetic episode of In My 20s. In my 20s. So you know how when it comes to your family or friends of the family, you'll usually refer to your parents' friends as your aunts and uncles. And when it comes to your cousins, you'll refer to your cousins as your brothers and sisters. But that word cousin is usually reserved for the closest of closest friends who are basically part of the family. However, today on the In My 20s podcast, when I say I'm interviewing my cousin, I'm talking about my literal cousin, as in our fathers were brothers, we share the same surname kind of cousin. So without further delay, welcoming our latest member to the In My 20s family and onto the In My 20s podcast, here he is.
Hi, my name is Simon Nyamuda. I'm 27 years old. I'm the managing director of ICT Systems Integration House. Most of my spare time, I really spend it doing community things in the community. I'm heavily involved with the church as well. My philosophy, I'll say my philosophy, I wouldn't say I've got a self-made philosophy, but personal conviction, spiritual philosophy that I'm standing on is really just standing on the rock, Jesus Christ, and placing my hope and faith and trust in Him.
So on every episode of the In My 20s podcast, my guests always come through with these: open up the book, highlight those words, put the words on your board and the board in your life, mind moment, epiphany moment, or gem moment. And this is just one of them.
I think there's something beautiful when you blend the energy of the youth with the wisdom of the old, and there's that in tandem. It's something that is priceless.
The In My 20s podcast is split up into 3 sections. In the first section, we're going to hear a little bit more about Simon's career journey. In the second section, we're going to dive into today's discussion, which is all about running the family business. And in Simon's case, it's particularly interesting because he is the youngest of 5 siblings. And then rounding up all 3 sections is a conversation with Simon about his 20s journey and 20s experience. So without further delay, let's get straight into it. So tell us a bit about your Zimbabwean roots and growing up, school you went to, where you studied, and where you are now on your career journey.
Okay, super. So my high school experience, I went to St. John's College in Harare, Zimbabwe. And I had an amazing high school experience. It was a very eventful, crazy period, a crazy, fun period for me in terms of life. It was just really a time of liberty. It's that stage where you're still in your parents' home, but you feel like you're on top of the world. And I had a good bunch of friends. And I really enjoyed my high school experience.
All boys school.
All boys school.
Yeah.
All boys school. But we did get girls join us for the IB program in lower 6 and upper 6, which would be your equivalent of grade 11.
Okay. Is it true what they say about all boys schools, that they kind of like instill that we are the best thing in you? Because I feel like the assembly periods, like you guys probably chant, we are the greatest, we are the best.
Oh yeah, definitely. The war cries, everything. Yeah.
So you go out into the world and you're like,
Oh yeah, like we own this.
You own it.
Yeah, little did we know, we own nothing.
You step out into the world and you're like,
yeah. And I think my mind was really siloed at that point, because we thought everything revolved around our high school and who we were, and we thought the best achievement in life is to play Zimbabwean rugby or Zimbabwean cricket, or to play for your national team, or to be the captain, or to be a prefect, or head boy. And when we got out of high school, in our early 20s, that's when you actually kind of realize, like, that counted for absolutely nothing for where we are now. Though then it was really what we thought was the pinnacle of our lives then. So
tell me a little bit about your transition from high school into the working world and the real world, because your journey is quite unique and quite different from a lot of the people I've spoken to and a lot of people I've interacted with on the show thus far. So tell us a little bit about that journey.
Okay. So the journey was I finished high school at the end of 2009, got our results in January 2010. I got average results, and my combination was really dealing in commercials. I did business studies, accounts, and economics. So at the time, most of my siblings at the time were in university. 3 of my siblings at the time were in university or had just finished university. So it was possibly not the best time financially for me to have gone to university, though it was something that I wanted to do. So I started considering a host of things. I applied to a number of universities. I got a couple of places. But there was still this financial situation. So I did try to get some scholarships to go to the States and tried a bunch of other things. And most of those things didn't come right at that time. But
and how did you carry that journey at the time? Because obviously, like, your siblings, as you mentioned, had gone to university and had the opportunity. How did, I mean, at that time, it's kind of like, what was going through your mind? How were you feeling?
Okay, so 2008, 2009 were probably one of the 2 toughest years that Zimbabwe's been through financially to date. So, at the time, I did probably have a disappointment within me, but I knew at the same time that, my parents love us and, they've done the best they possibly could have up to this point, and that, I just needed to be realistic to say, okay, this is where I'm at. And obviously it was a bit of a painful experience seeing most of your colleagues go, and at that point it feels like, oh, this must be the end of the world. But now you just, I've learned that, life is a journey, and the race isn't ever to the swift. And in retrospect, I don't think I was possibly ready to actually have gone, because I do feel that ever since, I feel that through not going, I actually matured more than if I had gone then, because I think there were still a lot of things which I needed to mature in, and just the situation which I went through helped me to mature as well. Yeah.
Wow. So you're 27 years young. You are the managing director of your family business at 27. What does that look like? What does that even mean?
Yeah, well, certainly it means a lot of pressure. Obviously taking the reins from a company that was formed by your parents. It's also a very emotional trip and a very emotional journey, but I think the strength for me has been to channel those emotions into energy and to use the emotional experience to try gain energy to work hard for my family, for the well-being of my family. Yeah.
And you've touched briefly on a bit about like the weight that kind of comes with it. So can you touch on some of the pros of working for a family business and some of the cons that you've experienced so far?
Okay. So the pros is that everything that you're working towards is for the benefit of your family, it's for the well-being of your family. And it brings inner joy, it brings an inner peace. So that's really a joy. That if you work hard, it's going to be beneficial for everyone within the family. Another pro is for me, has been to alleviate obviously stress and pain from my parents, who are also obviously fast reaching retirement age, and who are also detaching themselves from the business. So to see your parents happier is certainly a joy. To see you yourself be able to take stress away from them is also certainly a joy, and make them enjoy life more and release them to do other things. Like I said, my parents are pastors, and that's where they're now channeling most of their energy towards. Pro of a family business is obviously there's unity. If the family is clear on its vision, on its purpose, it becomes very easy to make decisions and say, okay, we're doing this, we're doing that, because in theory your family is the board of directors. So unlike a company where you've got a partner and you're not really family, certain decisions might not be supported.
Okay, cool. So you've spoken about the pros. What are some of the cons of working in a family business that you've experienced, if at all any?
Oh, there's plenty.
Yeah,
there's plenty. So I think one of them is sometimes you fall into the trap to say, we've always done things this way, why are we changing? Why are we breaking the status quo? And that usually happens when you've got a blend of the old generation and the new generation. And it's like, back in my day, this failed. Why are you doing it that way? And, there's emotional past hurts. And blending that with now and what's currently happening. Sometimes there's a disconnect, and sometimes there's the difficulty of letting go to the past and how things have been done before. So that's one con. Another con is every single conversation can end up being a conversation about work.
So at the family dinner table, on holidays,
and if it's a phone call, if it's a Saturday evening, if it's a Sunday dinner, if it's, so how did that thing go? Did you secure the contract? Did that customer pay?
So how do you separate the two, or do you separate the two, or because obviously as the MD and essentially head of the company, whatever you say or do kind of trickles down. Right.
Yeah, certainly. So I think for now, in our current setup, it's a bit better. I think rather than getting instructions, it's transitioned to now actually giving updates.
Okay.
And sharing where I do need counsel or I am seeking counsel. Though obviously sometimes it's you do get the questions, you do get asked, what's going on with that?
And it's difficult to put up boundaries to say, Mom, Dad.
Yeah.
Sorry, like, Mom, Dad, I'm not available now. It's out of office hours when it's the family business, right?
Yeah. So you answer gracefully. The best way you can.
You're the boss to everyone else besides your parents.
But at times you also need to take risks, and at times say, we're doing this because of that, and at times also make calculated risks, and because the times the times have changed, things are a bit different, so it's to blend the two, and I think there's something beautiful when you blend the energy of the youth with the wisdom of the old, and there's that in tandem. It's something that is priceless if it does work, if it does work well. So we need each other. I think, as young people in our 20s, we've got the zeal, we're a bit wild, but we also do need that that grounding once in a while to say, okay, have you, dotted the I's, have you crossed the T's? That's very key. That's crucial.
So that's absolutely beautiful, because in not just a family business context, but in the context of the world in general, I find that every industry is kind of going through that difficult patch where you have an older generation who have stayed in certain businesses and positions for such a long time, and you've got these newer millennial generations where they're not necessarily looking to be at a company for 10 years to get the golden handshake. They're kind of like, how quickly, how effectively, how efficiently can we do this? Where the old guys are like, but did you follow the steps?
Yeah, no, the young generation is disruptive.
Completely. Yeah. But then but how do you bridge that gap? Because there doesn't seem to be a center where people are like, we are the middle ground, this is the middle ground. How do you tackle that How would you take that on?
Okay, so for us in our context, in the context of where we are now, is the older generation is slowly moving out, or have slowly moved out of the business from the day to day. So the balance then comes where I am seeking counsel, but I am also very transparent in terms of what's going on. If they want to be copied in emails, well, not even if they want to be copied in emails, I gracefully keeping them in the loop of most emails concerning the business, or in fact all emails concerning performance of the business. Our business is an IT business, which is ICT in itself is very disruptive. And there's also been the maturity of them, my parents, especially my dad, to say that technology, when he started the business and technology now, have completely changed. And he feels that the things that I understand concerning it and what he understands have shifted a couple of generations. And I feel that same kind of way, because I'm 27, and I sometimes rely on the interns or our graduate trainees on a lot of things, like, okay, how do I change this? How do I change that? And I'm already kind of feeling old. Like, and
at 27.
Yeah, and for them, some of those things they do it effortlessly. Like, okay, how am I storing this thing in the cloud? How am I doing that? How do I convert this PDF to Word? Things which are so small. Or how do I combine several PDF documents and that kind of thing. So we need each other, and I think that's where the striking balance comes, is to say, express yourself, be as transparent as possible, and let's help each other, because you may have blind spots in one area, I may have blind spots in another area. Explain to me your decision, and don't get emotional, don't do anything rash. Iron sharpens iron.
Nice. And so coming back to you being 27, I can imagine that there are quite a few people who are older than you that have to report to you.
Oh yeah, plenty.
How have you managed to do so in a mature fashion, but in a sense that, because naturally back in the day, or the understanding is that most of our managers have been older than us. So naturally, when we talk to them, it's like already there's that respect. You know more than me. You're older than me. Even as Africans, we know we respect older people. In a work context, it's not necessarily, definitely respect, but it's kind of like they have to report to you. How do you manage that? How do you manage the temperament and the emotional weight of being younger than the people who are reporting to you?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So I became managing director I was appointed managing director in 2013.
Sure, so how old were you then?
That's 5 years ago, so...
Wow.
Yeah, 20.
You were 22.
22.
You were 22 when you were appointed managing director.
22. Well, it was in August. Yeah, 22 or 23.
Okay.
But I do believe, it was, August 2013.
And at the time, did you...
Actually, it wasn't August. It was, my probation. So it was around, thereabouts, possibly... May, June, July. May, June, July, thereabouts. Or 1 August, anyway. Yeah, so it's been some time. And what I can say is that I was a manager before that. It initially, it was a bit difficult. Here and there in certain contexts, but when you view it like we need to put the company first, people understand. And initially, a lot of people will not accept it. But when you make your work and your track record, people will begin to respect you. Okay. And when people actually start to see your vision. And sometimes I'll tell you, vision doesn't need to be communicated by words. It's communicated far much more by your actions. And they actually see, this guy is working really hard. This guy is breaking their back for the organization. They start to break their backs for your vision. And also how you treat them. They're older than you, but still respect them. Don't treat anyone like trash.
And then so I read an interesting statistic that says 90% of family businesses don't go past the third generation or don't reach the third generation. You are second generation in your family business. What are the hopes for the family business when you have children? Is this something that you want your kids to be a part of? Or what are your hopes for your kids' interaction within the business?
Oh, wow. Now we're thinking really far. But I would love my children to be a part of the business. And if it's something that they don't feel a call to, I won't put a gun to their head. I won't tie them down to the business. I believe in free will, people making their own decisions. And the vision that I have for the company is huge. And I would like to see the company run beyond myself, run beyond my family. And some of the ways I feel that would be possible is to institutionalize the business as much as possible, which may involve bringing in other investors, bringing in other parties, or listing some of the companies. And once you listing on a public exchange, once you take certain initiatives like that, you're quite sure you do certainly lose control of saying, okay, I own 100% of a tiny business, but you could own a smaller percent of a much bigger pie, and you're bringing in expertise, wisdom, expertise, knowledge, and the business, the security of the business lasting way beyond you is intact. So those are some of the things that I would be keen on doing by God's grace. Yeah.
I essentially want to know what your journey as a 20-something-year-old male has been thus far. Like, if you were to summarize your 20s journey, what would that be, and what does that look like for you?
I'll say my early 20s was, just finding my bearings. You're codependent, but you want to be independent completely.
Okay, so what was your quarter-life crisis, and how did you come out of it?
My quarter-life crisis was purpose.
Okay.
And it was like, and I'll tell you when that possibly hit me. 21, 22. And I was just doing extremely well in terms of business. And I was heading a business unit, driving sales for that business unit. And yeah, we were just killing it. We were doing extremely well as a business unit. It was performing. In 1 year, we grew the gross profit of that business unit by about 200%. But at that same period and that same time, I just felt such a emptiness. I had all the money that I could possibly want for a 21-year-old.
Sure.
Access to loans, a salary which was difficult to finish.
Oh, wow.
At the time.
Tough problems, eh? Can't finish my salary. Can't say I've ever had that problem.
but at the same time, such a huge emptiness. And at that time, I really felt it became clear to me that money was never going to fill a void, that void of true happiness or true purpose. And yeah, that's when I really began to evaluate life.
Okay.
And ask myself the tough questions. And it really became clear, like, okay, it's not really worth it, and life doesn't revolve around money or just working hard. There's so much more. There's so much more. But yeah, during that time, when you feel that gap of purpose, I remember, there would be days I'll just feel so low or just so gutted.
Yeah.
And I think I'm certain the gap was purpose. Yeah.
And did you find that through the journey of asking the questions, I'm interested to actually ask, like, what were some of the questions you were asking? What were some of the questions you were asking yourself in terms of purpose? Like,
I was really asking myself, okay, is this really happiness? And yeah, you start to evaluate those things, and it's like it's the small things. What's the quality of my relationships? And I think at this period, I was a workaholic. So I had detached myself from friendships. So I no longer had quality friendships, especially in Zimbabwe, because most of my friends were overseas. And obviously I lost touch. Naturally, I lost touch with plenty of them, most of them. And yeah, even just a quality relationship.
yeah.
A non-forceful thing, non-forceful relationship. And yeah, key relationship with God. What was my belief pattern? Was I still half in the gospel, half out, which I was at the time, and I think that had a strain on me, because my friends would come on holiday and I would still want to be Simon from the crazy years in high school, but it was no longer me. So yeah, I think that's probably, those were the biggest relapses which I would have. And when they were not around, it's not like I would drink or I would even go out. So when they would come, and if I did drink or something, or if I did go on a binge, I would be white boy wasted. And that's when you'd wake up. I would wake up and
blackout, passed out,
and I would be like, what was I doing? Why was I doing it? And feel worse.
Yeah.
Feel worse.
Yeah.
worse than I did before. So yeah, it's to start asking the tough questions, and it's like, okay, am I living for people?
Yeah.
Who am I living for? So that was I would say that would be the quarter life crisis.
And do you feel like you found the purpose now, or do you feel like you're still on a journey?
I found it.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I found
What is your purpose?
Purpose, serving God. Yeah, serving God, serving people.
Wow.
There's no greater joy that I get from serving God and serving people.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is beautiful, because I feel like that is one of the huge cruxes of, that's even the right word, but it is one of the big questions people have as millennials, but in life in general. It's like, why am I here? What is my purpose? Where am I going?
Yeah,
as
definitely.
you've said, you found that money was not
Can't fill the gap. Yeah.
Can't fill the gap. It's not, happiness doesn't come from money.
Oh,
what
yeah,
are you doing?
definitely, yeah.
But it's the most simplified, impactful.
It's the simple things.
Definition of what your purpose is. And we
100%.
read books, we YouTube, and we do all of these things, and ultimately I agree with you. Serve God and serve people. And the amount of joy that comes from helping people, it's like,
it's
why
priceless.
wouldn't you just want to keep doing that? But it's
contagious.
It's contagious.
Correct.
And you can do it in whatever field you're in.
Yeah,
serving
yeah.
God and serving people with the gifts that you've been given.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's quite something. That's quite something. What advice do you have for the 20-year-old person?
My words of advice would certainly be not give up, keep moving forward, and just to press on towards their dreams and goals.
Wow. And if we're talking about degrees of comparison, it's wow, woweezy, and all the wows. Thank you so much, Simon, for coming onto today's show and just sharing so much wisdom and knowledge and your journey with us. But also, to your advantage, is you have an incredible voice. You have such a voice of authority that whatever you say sounds and seems more impactful. There were no doubt so many beautiful moments on this podcast episode, but one thing I want to just zoom in quickly on is when we were talking about purpose. Now, I know if you ask the average 20-year-old, what is your purpose in life? Even for myself, it's this question that you're like, oh my gosh, this is such a daunting task. The purpose for my life. Are you talking about my entire existence? But yours was so simple and so beautiful. Serve God and serve people. And I literally had that moment of, oh, wow. So to everybody listening, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the In My 20s podcast as much as I did. I hope that you were able to learn something, understand something, and to glean some wisdom as well. So just so you know, there will not be an episode of the In My 20s podcast next week, but we will be back in 2 weeks' time on the 14th of February. Subscribe, follow us on social media. I personally cannot wait to be back on the podcast waves, but we will see you very soon in 2 weeks' time, right here on In My 20s. In my 20s, in my 20s, how old are you? I am always gonna be in my 20s, 20s. I am always gonna be in my 20s. Until I turn 30, of course. Okay, bye.